Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a fascinating and sometimes uncomfortable topic: the psychology behind why some individuals abandon their moral principles in pursuit of fame. It's a topic that's especially relevant in today's social media-driven world, where controversy and shock value often seem to be the fastest path to viral success. So why do people choose to push boundaries and behave provocatively, even at the cost of their values? Let's break it down. First up, we need to talk about the basic human need for acceptance and validation. We all want to be seen and heard, right? But when that need is tied to fame, things get a little more complicated. Fame is often seen as a form of success, and the more attention you get, the more validated you feel. This drive for acceptance can become so intense that people are willing to abandon their moral compass just to fit in. Take Bad Bunny, for example. He's not just known for his music, but for his bold and sometimes controversial fashion choices and his willingness to break cultural norms. He challenges traditional ideas, not just in his music, but in the way he presents himself to the world. And guess what? People love him for it. His fame comes in part from pushing boundaries. And this is a direct reflection of what psychologists call social validation theory, where people adopt behaviors to gain approval and confirm their place in society. But here's the thing: when that approval comes from shocking or provocative behavior, it can lead someone to act in ways they might normally avoid just for the fame. And social media doesn't help. The likes, comments, and shares act as instant gratification. Every notification triggers a release of dopamine, which makes us want more. It's a reinforcement loop that can override our internal values, especially when we're getting so much positive feedback. Now let's talk about belonging. According to self-determination theory, we all have this intrinsic need to feel part of something bigger than ourselves. Fame, especially online fame, gives people a sense of belonging that can feel almost impossible to resist. It's like joining an exclusive club with millions of followers. Doja Cat is another great example. She built her career, in part, by embracing a persona that is unpredictable and controversial. Whether it's bizarre live streams or pushing the envelope with risque content, she's all about entertaining and keeping her followers on edge. And let's be honest, it works. Her followers love her for it. This is another example of how fame and belonging can drive someone to act in ways they wouldn't normally. Research shows that the need to feel accepted can even make people abandon their own values, especially if it means securing public approval. Then there's FOMO, the fear of missing out. We've all felt it, right? You see someone doing something amazing and you feel like you're being left behind. Well, FOMO isn't just a personal issue, it's amplified on social media, where everyone is constantly comparing their lives to others. Lil Nas X is a perfect example of someone embracing FOMO and social comparison. His Montero video shocked the world, and it wasn't just the music, it was the daring, boundary-pushing visuals that garnered so much attention. By embracing taboo subjects and provocative imagery, he earned a massive fan base. And as we saw with Bad Bunny and Doja Cat, this willingness to shock and push limits creates more visibility, which keeps the fame machine turning. But it's not just about the shock factor. It's about competition. When one artist gets attention for shocking the world, others might feel the pressure to do the same just to stay relevant. Social comparison theory tells us that when we see someone else gain fame through provocative actions, it can create a sense of urgency to do the same. And that's where FOMO kicks in. If you're not pushing the envelope, you might feel like you're getting left behind. Now let's dive into how social comparison and social media pressure can shape the decisions of people in the public eye, often leading them to make morally questionable choices in the pursuit of fame. Social media has created a culture where people are constantly comparing themselves to others. And with platforms rewarding bold, provocative, and sometimes even risky behavior, individuals often feel like they need to keep up in order to gain attention and admiration. Social comparison theory, which was introduced by psychologist Leon Festinger, tells us that people naturally evaluate themselves by comparing their abilities, achievements, and even their lifestyles to others. When someone sees others gaining fame through shocking or provocative actions, it creates a pressure to match or exceed those behaviors, especially if that person believes it's an effective path to success. Take viral challenges like the Bus It Challenge or the Silhouette Challenge. These often involve suggestive dances or risky behavior designed to capture attention. Many influencers participate not because these actions align with their personal values, but because the social media environment rewards this kind of behavior with massive visibility. In fact, studies have shown that social comparison on platforms like Instagram or TikTok can make people more likely to engage in behaviors they wouldn't normally consider just to capture some of that attention and approval. The allure of going viral, of getting that like or share, can outweigh any hesitation about the moral implications of the behavior. Social comparison theory works in two ways: upward comparison, where we compare ourselves to others we see as better or more successful, and downward comparison, where we look to those we perceive as worse off. On social media, upward comparison is far more common, and it often leads to envy, dissatisfaction, and a drive to catch up. And when provocative behavior gets rewarded with fame, it becomes hard not to feel like that's the way to go. Take Kim Kardashian, for instance. Despite her vast success in business, she frequently posts suggestive photos on social media. Why? Because she understands the power of visual attention. Even with her enormous following and influence, there's still this drive to stay relevant, to maintain a level of interest that keeps her at the top of the media conversation. Kim has mastered the art of presenting an idealized version of herself. And for many, that's the standard to aspire to. Research in psychology shows that when people experience what's called self-discrepancy, where there's a gap between who they are and who they want to be, they may alter their behavior to close that gap. In the world of social media, this often means adopting exaggerated or idealized personas to fit the standards they believe society values. The pressure to present a perfect, attention-grabbing version of oneself online can push individuals to make decisions that feel like the only way to stay relevant. Another key factor in this moral dilemma is desensitization. When we're repeatedly exposed to shocking content, we can lose the initial shock factor, and what once seemed extreme becomes more normal. This desensitization is a huge driver in why controversial behavior starts to feel like just another part of the fame game. Madonna is a prime example of someone who has continuously used shock value to maintain her fame. Whether it's sexually explicit performances or using controversial imagery, Madonna has kept herself in the public eye by consistently pushing boundaries. More recently, her Instagram has featured provocative content that still attracts attention and keeps her relevant even as public opinions shift. But here's where desensitization comes in. The more we see shocking behavior, the less shocked we become. And over time, this can lower the moral barriers that would have previously stopped someone from engaging in similar actions. As a result, more people are willing to push the envelope, knowing that they'll receive the same validation and fame for it. Psychological research backs this up. A study from Media Psychology found that constant exposure to sensational content on social media reduces the moral objections that people might have to such behavior. Essentially, the more we see it, the less we question it. And that's why many people start emulating these boundary-pushing actions for their own shot at fame. So what's the takeaway here? Fame in the age of social media is often shaped by forces beyond our control. Social comparison, the pressure to conform to idealized standards, and the normalization of extreme behavior. These psychological pressures create an environment where individuals may abandon their personal values to pursue attention and approval. While some may argue that this is just how the fame game works, it's crucial to remember that these behaviors come with consequences. We all need to be more aware of how social media affects our perceptions of success and how it can push us toward making decisions that may not align with our true selves. Next, let's explore how self-worth and identity can drive people to make morally questionable decisions in their quest for fame. When individuals have low self-esteem or a fragile sense of identity, the pressure to validate themselves through external means, like fame or notoriety, can often override their core principles. In the age of social media, people are able to craft idealized versions of themselves to earn validation from a wide audience. But what happens when this external validation becomes so intertwined with an individual's sense of worth? It can lead to behaviors that conflict with their internal values, as they seek fame or attention that temporarily fills that void. One way to understand this is through self-discrepancy theory. This psychological framework, proposed by E. Torrey Higgins, suggests that individuals experience discomfort when there's a gap between their actual self, who they believe they are, and their ideal self, who they want to be or who they think society values. In response, they may adjust their behavior or self-presentation to close that gap, often in ways that align with what they believe others want to see. A good example of this can be seen in the case of actress Bella Thorne. Known for her role on Disney Channel, Thorne made headlines when she joined OnlyFans, a platform often associated with adult content, and posted highly suggestive images. For some, this shift was seen as a deliberate move to shed her Disney star image and embrace a more grown-up persona. Thorne's decision aligns with self-discrepancy theory, where she likely felt the need to bridge the gap between her past, more innocent image, and the ideal adult persona she wanted to portray as she grew older. The pressure to remain relevant in an ever-changing industry likely influenced her decision to adopt a more provocative public image, even if it conflicted with her earlier, more family-friendly values. Research has shown that people often engage in exaggerated self-presentation to reduce the discomfort they feel from this gap. In Bella's case, the need to align with her ideal self, a more edgy adult persona, may have outweighed the moral concerns associated with her earlier image. Now let's talk about the powerful drive for power and influence. Fame doesn't just offer attention. It brings the ability to shape perceptions, control narratives, and of course the potential for financial gain. But sometimes, the lure of power can overshadow ethical concerns, leading people to adopt morally questionable behaviors. The desire to have sway over others and be admired is incredibly motivating. In some cases, individuals may see fame as a fast track to gaining influence, a means to get ahead, no matter the cost. This creates what we call a means justify the ends mentality, where individuals prioritize their quest for power over their moral compass. Psychological theories help explain this urge for dominance and influence, especially in the world of social media. One such theory is social dominance theory, which suggests that individuals and groups strive to achieve and maintain dominant positions within social hierarchies. This drive for dominance can sometimes push individuals to adopt aggressive or provocative behavior to elevate their status and gain influence over others. Take Andrew Tate, for example. A former kickboxer turned influencer, Tate has built a following based on controversial messages about masculinity, wealth, and power. His often divisive and aggressive language has earned him both admiration and criticism, but one thing is clear: Tate uses shock value to grow his influence and establish his dominance. Research supports the idea that individuals seeking dominance are more likely to engage in behaviors that elevate their status, even if those actions are morally contentious. Tate's deliberate use of controversy highlights how the drive for social dominance can lead people to adopt extreme personas, especially when they're competing for visibility in the crowded world of social media. Another concept that helps explain power-seeking behavior is the power paradox. Psychologist Dacher Keltner explains that people often rise to power through positive traits like empathy and kindness. But once they attain power, they can become more self-interested, entitled, and risk-taking, sometimes pushing ethical boundaries to maintain their influence. Consider Elon Musk's use of Twitter. Musk has frequently made provocative statements on the platform about everything from politics to cryptocurrencies, sometimes with real-world consequences. Despite facing backlash and even legal consequences, Musk continues to use Twitter in ways that keep him at the forefront of public discussion. Musk's behavior exemplifies the power paradox. His rise to power was initially fueled by his innovative contributions, but now his public persona and the influence he wields on social media seem to have encouraged riskier, more controversial statements. As Keltner's research shows, the more power individuals gain, the more they may feel entitled to act without regard for potential consequences. When power becomes a part of an individual's identity, they may begin to prioritize maintaining that power over ethical considerations, and that can lead to morally questionable actions. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology behind fame and power, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. How do you think the pursuit of power affects people's behavior? See you next time.